Good evening and welcome back to another episode of the Arrow Preacher Podcast. I am your host, the Arrow Preacher, and again, welcome back. It has only been a few days, and yet things are steadily spiraling out of control up there in the fantastic state of Minnesota. Specifically in and around the Minneapolis area. So welcome back to another episode of What Bakes My Noodle Infinity, which means this is probably going to go on for a while. And we are going to talk about things from a veteran standpoint, from a conservative standpoint, and from a Christian standpoint. Forgive me for the dry mouth. Some of my medications cause dry mouth, so you will find me drinking a Canada Dry, zero sugar, not endorsed. It just happens to be what I have at the moment. So, I don't know if y'all saw the news today, but a little something happened up in St. Paul, Minnesota, where a angry mob of anti-ICE protesters stormed a church this morning, going after a pastor who was inside, who they believed was affiliated with ICE of some sort. Apparently, rumor has it Don Lemon was there, and they decided to interrupt church service to protest and to chant and to just be a general nuisance. I can put up with an awful lot. As long as you protest, I can put up with your protest as long as you're on the side of the street or in a designated area that you have gotten permission to protest. What I don't like is I don't like when people interfere with government, federal, and local law enforcement doing their jobs. I don't like the idea that these people are stopping ICE agents from arresting child sex offenders, which seems to be what was going on up in the St. Paul area today. They were getting ready to arrest a sex offender of children, and people were interfering with that. I don't like people deciding that it is now okay to go into a church at the beginning of its service, while in service, and interrupting other people's worship. In no way is that excusable. Nothing would excuse that at all. I have a problem with how people have now decided to this vigilantism, okay, is not okay. And I believe everybody should have the right and the freedom in this country to be able to worship in peace. It was Sunday. If you want to talk to the pastor, you do it after service. If you want to have a conversation with that pastor, you do it after service. You don't interrupt everybody's church service for your own personal political gains. Not okay. Not okay. It seems to me that the quote-unquote tolerant left is rather intolerant. You can have a religious belief and the left doesn't respect that. The left turns to violence and threats. They stabbed a guy in the chest just because he believed in something. Now, do I think that he should have done what he did? No. Is that a reason to stab the guy in the chest? No. There's no reason that you should ever stab someone in the chest unless it's in a, physical, life-threatening self-defense. What's happening right now is not the country that I fought for. Now, I firmly believe that if there are laws and ICE is upholding the law, which is incontrovertible, right? You can't deny that. If you don't like the law, then you have to change the law. But protesting because they're upholding the law is stupid. It's absolutely stupid. But you can go out and protest. That's fine. You can protest. I don't have a problem with that. Right? We have the freedom of peaceful assembly. You want to protest? Go protest. Do it from the sidewalks. Stay out of the way. You can protest as long as you are not interfering with what they are doing. You can protest all day long. It is illegal to dox federal agents. It's illegal to put their personal information out on the internet for everybody to see. That's illegal. You can't put law enforcement's home addresses and stuff like that up there for the world to see. You can't do that. It is a crime. But if you want to go out there and chant and hold up signs, fine. That is your right. To get a permit for that assembly, that is your right. But to go into a church just because you want to make a scene and act like a child, it's not okay. And as Captain Picard once said, the line must be drawn here, this far, and no farther. And the left has gone way over that line. There was a picture of this guy sitting outside with an AR platform rifle, which is one, ironic considering the left hates the Second Amendment. Most of the left absolutely hates the Second Amendment. So the fact that they're sitting outside with a rifle kind of just blows my mind. But you can't intimidate law enforcement with a firearm. You know what's going to happen when you intimidate law enforcement with a firearm? They're going to shoot you. You cannot intimidate law enforcement with firearms. You can't. Because then they have the legal right to shoot you if they feel that their life is in danger. That is the epitome of stupid. Now, I hope that guy who was photoed with the AR saying he's going to protect his neighborhood, don't. Rethink your life choices. Because it would be considered a justifiable homicide. So don't. I am pleading with people to not do that. You have every right to protest. You have every right to go out there and feel the way you feel. Now, I don't agree with that. And apparently a lot of the country who voted for Donald Trump to actually clean up the immigration issue, the illegal aliens that came in, which is no different than Clinton, no different than Obama, still hasn't even come close to the number of Obama. There are clips of Obama's immigration speeches going viral all over the place. Except for, it seems that the dwellings in which they're housing these people is far nicer in this administration than they ever were during the Obama administration. But I'm pleading. Don't do that. Don't approach ICE with an armed, hostile posture. Don't. just don't. Last night I was sitting up and it was, I don't know, 1 in the morning. I guess I could look, but I think it was about 1 in the morning. Maybe a little bit later. And the missus had laid down, gone to sleep. And all of a sudden I heard it pop, pop, pop. And my heart sank. My anxiety levels skyrocketed. And I knew what it was. Then I heard it. It was a tires screeching, an engine rev, tire screeching. I heard what I thought was a scream. I called 911, told them that I thought that there'd been a shooting, maybe even a drive-by shooting is the way it sounded. Law enforcement came and they did a drive-through of the apartment complex, and then they came back a little bit later, did another pass-through, and then there was 2 patrol vehicles that came and did a drive-through, and then a little bit later they stopped, and it looked like a bunch of officers came and this time got out of the vehicle, and they were walking the parking lot with their flashlights, and they were looking at stuff, and they were looking at the building. And I don't know what happened. I don't know if other people had called. I don't know if they had other information. And then after watching for quite a while, one of them kind of ran back to his vehicle, got in, backed up, and drove off real fast. Now I don't know if he got another call to another place. I don't know if somebody found something somewhere else and they drove off. I don't know. But it definitely, as I mentioned, we had the drive-by shooting. I think it was on the 22nd or 23rd of December. And it was just a few buildings down from me in my apartment complex. So I'm already on edge. Everything that's going on, I'm already on edge. And then all of a sudden, there's another potential shooting last night. And I know what I heard, right? It's not a engine backfiring. Yeah, I hear that too here. We've got a long strip, and sometimes people hit the engine and they'll go and it'll backfire. I hear that, but that's not what this was. This was someone discharging a firearm. Sounded probably like a pistol. But I think I've got some fatigue with what's going on. You look at other major states, and they have ICE in other major cities as well, and there are very few cities where you see this type of incidences going on up like they are up in Minneapolis. And I think ultimately what it comes down to is I think it's distraction. I think the powers that be in Minneapolis, after their large fraud was uncovered, Nick Surley did his piece on the fraud, and obviously everybody knows that went viral. Amazing how just after that they decided, hey, let's just protest ICE in force. Let's stand up. Let's get the whole city to stand up and turn against this federal agency. Let's say that we're going to have the National Guard stand up against them. And let's say we're going to have the police, which obviously the police chief, the look on his face when he was told that they're going to have to fight ICE, the look on his face was priceless. But it's amazing how it happened just after all this fraud was uncovered. And it seems to me that this is to take people's opinions away from what's going on with the fraud. And in my mind, I don't understand how someone can look at this objectively and say, as a tax-paying citizen, are you okay with billions of dollars of your taxpayer money going to fraud? in your state. Are you okay with that? So you're telling me that you have no problem with all this $1 billion in fraud. You wonder why the medical bills and stuff like that are so expensive. Well, when there's over $1 billion in fraud, of course cost is going to go up because these things are being paid for, but it's not legitimate. It's not a legitimate services. So what happens when there's a bunch of fraud? Well, let me tell you. If you were to go into, I used to work in retail for a while, and one of the things that we learned was shrinkage, which is loss prevention. If someone goes in and they steal items, everybody will eventually pay for those items being stolen because the store will have to recoup its money. Okay, the store spends, say, $20 on a $10 item. Well, why do they pay $20 on a $10 item? Well, they pay $20 because they not only have to they have to pay for it and everything, because obviously there's the manufacturer that needs to get paid, but there's also the shipping that needs to get paid. So the manufacturer, they get paid what they get paid, and then you have to raise the price a little bit because you've got to pay for the transportation and everything. So by the time it is sold to the consumer, it's $22, $25. So what happens when that item gets stolen? Well, if enough of those items get stolen, you then have to raise the price to cover the loss. So it's the same thing when you look at what happens when there's massive amounts of medical fraud and Medicaid and stuff like that. That money has to be recouped somewhere. And guess where it is? It's you and I. So I don't understand how these people are so okay with the amount of fraud. I don't understand how so many people are duped and so many people go astray. That there's an individual, this probably has also gone viral, but this individual is walking down the street and he's wearing an American flag hoodie, and a bunch of people come up to him and tell him, if you don't take that off, we're going to hurt you. And the thing that I don't understand is he wasn't just a white Caucasian. He looked darker complexion, so maybe Indian or Middle East, maybe even Middle Eastern, I'm not sure. But either way, he wasn't my complexion. He was much darker. So where's the tolerance, right? You've got black individuals who are conservative, and you've got these black individuals who are conservative, and the things that people say to them are just ridiculously sickening, because they see things from a more conservative standpoint. You're not tolerant of them. So Black Lives doesn't matter unless it's convenient. You have that young black lady that was killed by illegal immigrants, and you don't actually care about women's lives, because if you did, you would care about the 6 or 8 women that have been killed just within recent months from illegal immigrants, and yet you don't truly care. There was no outrage in the streets for these women when they were brutally raped and murdered. So it's manufactured outrage. Unfortunately, these things have gone on for far too long. Now, I say this, as a Christian, I love my country. And we see in Scripture we see people who pray for their country. We see that the laws and the rules of a country are to be adhered to as long as those things, and this is Scripture, as long as those things do not go against God's word, you are to abide by the law of the land. Now, every country in the world has immigration laws. I have talked about this in depth. There is nothing wrong with our immigration laws. We accept a great deal of immigrants into this country. And the only thing we ask of them is learn the language and assimilate. And try not to be a burden on something like Medicare or Medicaid and welfare programs. Do your best to absolutely not have to get into that. And that's really all we ask for. Just abide by the laws. But the thing that I'm seeing now is these people who are protesting are just anarchists. They threaten an individual who is obviously not white Caucasian just because he's wearing an American flag shirt, showing a little bit of patriotism. We have the greatest country in the world. It's interesting to me because you don't want him wearing the American flag, the symbol of what this nation is. You want everybody to be able to come here illegally. And so many people want to come to the United States because they don't want to live where they live. So make it make sense. If you don't like this country, then why support people coming here illegally? If you don't like this country, what it stands for, what it was built on, and the fact that it's lived and survived for 250 years, why are you here? So you hate this country, but you don't want to go anywhere else. You hate this country, but you want this country to look more like the places that you're leaving. Then why would you leave that to begin with? We take in more immigrants than most other places. We are the most altruistic country on the planet. We give more money and more aid to foreign nations than any other country. We assist more countries with their defense. We pay for the vast majority of the defense for NATO. And yet, we're the bad guys, apparently. Make it make sense. You scream tolerance, but you interrupt church services. You scream tolerance, but the guy wearing the American flag t-shirt, you threaten him with physical violence if he doesn't take it off. How is that tolerant? You scream tolerance and you burn the American flag and you go out there and you want to attack ICE agents, and then the guy who, like I said, I don't agree, but from what I hear, he burned the Quran. I don't agree with that. I don't think you should do that. But if you have the right to burn the American flag and to attack people, and you think that you have every right to hit people, then why doesn't he have the right to burn the Quran? So when someone does something you don't like, your answer is to attack them. Now again, I don't agree with what he did. I don't think he should have done that. But do I think he should have gotten stabbed in the chest? No. What about the guy who got beat over the head with a flagpole? Come on. Tell me that that's not the party of hate. Tell me that it's not the party of violence. You can't. You have eyeballs, right? You see what's going on. After Charlie Kirk died, nobody was in the streets protesting. Nobody was in the streets going out and doing violent things. They had a worship service. People went out with candles, set up memorials. And what did the left do in response? They vandalized the memorials. Tell me how the left is the tolerant left. Tell me how that is coexist, which is the most laughable bumper sticker on the planet. Because you don't want coexisting. Now, we are called to love one another. We are called to pray for one another. We are called to tell the truth for one another. So here's the truth. You are sinners. I am a sinner. We need a Savior. Because within our own sin, we can do nothing to save ourselves. So God had a rescue plan. Jesus would come, would be born to a virgin, would live, would grow, and in 3.5 years would do signs and wonders that no one had ever seen, ever. Signs and wonders that no one would ever be able to refute. Took 12 individuals, and with those 12 individuals would change the world. Betrayed by one, and then the 11 would go out, and they would go from terrified individuals to seeing him resurrected, being boldened, would go, and like Peter would eventually go before the Sanhedrin and say, hey, you do what you got to do, but as for me and us, we're going to go and we're going to continue to preach what we have seen, what we have borne witness to. And they were no longer afraid. They were no longer hiding. They were bold in their faith. And 10 out of those 11 would go to a very horrific death by angry mobs, just like we're seeing today. The Sanhedrin saw the miracles that Jesus had done and yet denied him anyway. Saw it with their own eyes, witnessed these miracles with their own eyes, saw him feed the multitudes, saw him heal the paralytic man that was lowered down by his friends. They witnessed the paralyzed man at the pool of Bethesda be healed. They would have witnessed Lazarus dying and yet coming back to life at the hands of Jesus. They were there when the little girl died and yet was raised from the dead. They were there. They were present when the mother's son was on his the bed that they were carrying for him to be buried, and he touched the table that they were carrying him on, and he rose from the dead. They saw these miracles firsthand. And yet they still were stubborn. And they failed to believe. And then after Jesus rose, he made himself seen to over 500 people. And a new faith called the Way, the Christians, were born. Well, I can tell you the truth, and I can tell you the truth, and I can tell you the truth. And just like the Pharisees, just like the Sadducees, it doesn't matter if I tell you the truth. It doesn't matter if I show you the truth. It doesn't matter if there's video evidence of the proof of what happens in an event. You're going to believe what you want to believe. But I am here to tell you that truth is the only way. And you have to live with the idea of either believe the truth or face the consequences. And the consequences of us not living in the truth is eternal damnation. Well, Mr. Arrow Preacher Guy, that doesn't seem very fair. That I've lived my life and that I'm going to be tortured for all eternity. Well, guess what? This is God's creation. This is His world. He makes the rules because He is God. And that's all there is to it. Them's the rules. When you have your own house, you make your rules. Well, this universe is God's universe. He makes the rules. Because He is righteous, He is holy, He is just, He is love. And in that love, I am telling you the truth. The evidence for Jesus being who He said He was is incontrovertible. You just got to look at it with a reasonable amount of objectivity. But as always, people come to a conclusion with their suppositions and they decide what they want to decide. And many people decide what they want to decide no matter what the evidence. There's no way that you'll ever be swayed one way or another. And that's actually not being very objective. In fact, that's actually living within your emotions. And if you live within your emotions, if you're guided by your emotions, then you will be guided by the ebb and flow of the waves of the sea. And no matter what anybody does, you will be easily duped. And as Benjamin Netanyahu said, you will be a useful idiot. So all of these people who are on the left right now are Satan's useful idiots. Because if you're not a follower of Jesus, you are a follower of Satan. And if you're a follower of Satan, you're a useful idiot. If you don't like it, I'm sorry. I didn't think we were playing nice anymore. I thought everybody wanted to tell the truth. So here's the truth. You have a choice. Not all roads lead to heaven. Jesus said, I am the way, not one of many ways, not a way that you might want to take. No, He said, I am the way, the truth, the life, and no one gets to the Father except through me. So if you are not a follower of Christ, if you are not a born-again Christian, then you will unfortunately get to party with the demons in hell and be tortured forever, where you will look to God and you will gnash your teeth. And you will, very much like Anakin Skywalker, on the edge of a volcano, look to Obi-Wan. Instead of looking to Obi-Wan saying, oh man, I messed up. Can you help me out here? I am sorry. You were right. I am wrong. Nope, that's not what he did. He looked at Obi-Wan Kenobi. And while he is burning to death on the side of a mountain, what did he say? I hate you. So you will sit in hell, and you will look to God, and you will say, I hate you. Now, everybody's eyes will be open, and you will know the truth. And even in knowing the truth, you will still look to God and scream at Him, I hate you. And you will curse profanities at God. I hate you. Because no amount of evidence will ever get you to change. Because why? You want to be in charge. You don't want to be submissive to a righteous and holy God. And you will scream, I hate you. You will give in to the dark side. you will be encompassed in that absolute hatred. Wow, shocker. Look at what we are seeing in the world right now. We are seeing absolute hatred. Do I hate you? No. Do I disagree with you? Yes. Do I think that what you're doing and murdering babies and siding on the side with criminals over women who've been murdered? Criminals who are stealing from the system? You know, is there a human factor? Sure there is. Absolutely. Are there families that are being caught up with ICE and deported, and families are breaking because, someone was here illegally? Absolutely. Some of them are, why didn't you just file why didn't you file the paperwork? Some of them have been here for 10, 20 years and you didn't file the paperwork. Why didn't you file the paperwork? You might have had an opportunity until eventually the door closes and you don't have an opportunity anymore. Some of them are truly sad. But whether it's sad or not, there are still rules and laws that we live by. It doesn't matter if it's sad or not. We still have rules to live by. Because there's a line. And as Obama said, you cannot just cut the line, come on in, do whatever you want, and expect to get away with it. Those are Obama's words, not Trump's words. Not ICE today. I had to wait in line. I have a good friend who got his citizenship after many, many years of being on a green card and coming over here and doing it the right way. I had to go through the process, not for me, but for somebody that I care about. Do I think it's fair that somebody just comes over here and gets money and housing and all that? I didn't get any of that. I just had to pay another $1,400. And that's not even citizenship. So you can't say that I hate immigrants. I'm married to one. I appreciate the laws. I appreciate the rules. And I didn't get a handout. I haven't gotten any assistance. I didn't get a tax break. I didn't get, a little startup fund. Here you go. Welcome to the country. Here's $1,000 to get your life started. I didn't get any of that. Instead, it's welcome to the country. Give me almost $10,000 to do it. So yeah. Going into churches and disrupting church service, all because you want to talk to somebody and that you think he might be affiliated with ICE? Are you kidding? How inappropriate are you? But it's like having an argument with a child. You can argue and argue and argue, and it doesn't matter. So welcome back to another episode of What Bakes My Noodle. And I hope everybody starts to wake up and see what's going on right in front of them. Because this stuff, nah, man. This is not okay. Insurrections, fighting ICE agents, not adhering to the rule of law. No one in ICE is breaking the law, man. They're upholding the law. Like I said, your side lost by a lot. Not even a little bit, a lot. But when you let people like Ilhan Omar just flat up lie to you, if you have people like Tim Waltz lying to you to your face, people like Jacob Fry is lying to your face, Gavin Newsom lying to your face, it takes all of about 4 seconds of research to find these people getting caught up in their lies. You got people in Minnesota whose name are on bills that they're now fighting against, that they're the ones that signed on to those bills to begin with and passed into law. And now they're breaking the very law that they themselves wrote. You can't make this up. But I want to thank everybody for joining me yet again on another episode of What Bakes My Noodle. I'm sure that I will do another one, unfortunately, very soon, because it seems like there is no end in sight for the materials that I will be given to be able to continue to do this. If you liked this episode, please remember these episodes aren't shared very easily, especially because of the content matter. Conservative Christian content doesn't get shared very easily. So if you have watched this episode, please drop a like. If you haven't already subscribed, please, subscribe. If you really want to share with a friend. And I hope everybody has a great evening. I will be back again. God bless. Stay safe. And I would say if you're a conservative Christian, keep your head on a swivel, because it seems like the mobs are coming for us now. If they're willing to be brazen to stab a guy in the chest just because he did something that they don't like, hit a guy with a flagpole, assault somebody trying to just walk down the street wearing an American flag hoodie, if these are the things that are happening, conservative Christian, patriot, keep your head on a swivel, because they're coming for us. And I don't think it's light. I don't say that lightly, but I definitely think it's absolutely true. So keep your head on a swivel. Protect your family. Protect yourself. Be careful. But remember, no matter what you do, make sure that you remember God is watching. You have to be accountable for your actions. What you say, what you do, you are accountable for your actions. And you will have to account for what you say and do. There are consequences for what we say and do. Make sure that when an almighty God looks at you, you can stand there with righteousness on your side. So make sure you are be very careful what you do. You can be angry, but do not let that anger cause you to sin. Be careful what you do. My Christian friends, my Christian brothers and sisters, be careful. I will see you all next time. Go in peace. Share the gospel. Continue to share the truth. Hold your ground. God bless.